do wish all the distinguished engineers here and the esteemed leaders of the NSC, captains of industry, academia, representatives, and friends. It is a huge honor for me to speak to you today on this topic that we're discussing. In fact, this topic is very, very passionate to me. Like Madam Chairman has said, when she had reached out to me, it was the first thing that came to my mind, because two things. Of course, in the industry that I run, we are constantly in need of engineers, of workers, skilled workers, technical workers. And what we have found is that we would more likely hire the core technical people, the ones that probably went to technical schools and vocational schools, because they tend to have an understanding of what it is we're talking about. A lot of the graduates either don't even have a clue, or they don't want to get their hands dirty. They want to probably work in a bank or work in a nice cushy job in an office with AC. And I'm like, for the most part, engineering is very rudimentary. You go down to the roots of the job. So it's become a consistent issue. So much so that at the beginning of this year, we took a decision, early on in the year, we took a decision to actively do something about it. You know, it's high time that we stop complaining that the graduates don't know anything when we are not actually doing anything to help them. So I'm going to get to that. So we are actively doing something about it. So this is a very, very, very important topic for me, because the Nigerian industrial sector, I would say, needs a revolution. You know, it's not just a transformation, it's an outright revolution, and it starts from now. It starts from this kind of conversations. It's not just for intellectual interest, as it were. It's a critical necessity for our nation's survival and prosperity. You know, I say to a lot of people that engineering cuts across every aspect of our lives. We like to say it or not. It is the one industry that cuts across everything. You know, technology, healthcare, even the banks, a lot of the fintechs, they depend on engineers a lot of the time. So this is something that we really, really do need to take very seriously. And, you know, we're convening now at a critical junction in our history. Nigeria is endowed with a vibrant young population, rich resources, strong entrepreneurial drive. However, despite all these strengths, we are yet to fully realize our industrial capacities. A significant challenge persists. There is an ongoing disconnect between the education and the industry, between theoretical understanding and practical implementation, and between our aspirations and our realization. So today, I will try to examine how experiential learning and strategic partnerships with the industry will serve as the two key drivers for Nigeria's long-awaited industrial revival. And together we will explore these strategies, and I'm going to put NSC and Koren in the middle of all of this. They have to take leading roles in making this a reality. So we're gonna, I'm just gonna go through. Again, I've said here that this is just beyond. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. So despite all these different economic reforms and policy interventions and whatnot, our industrial sector in Nigeria probably contributes to less than 20% of our GDP. And this is a statistic that is real. And the reason, industrialization, as we know it, it's not just about building factories. It requires human capacity. So we require engineers, technologists, innovators who will ideate, implement, and drive these sustainable projects. And today, over 50% of our graduates are reportedly underprepared for modern industrial workforce. The underlying cause is our educational model, which prioritizes theoretical memorization over experiential engagement. And this approach would leave the graduates underprepared for the real world challenges that they're going to face, because they will lack the skills that is needed to apply their knowledge in a dynamic, ever-changing world. So this skills mismatch is a big issue in the workforce, where graduates would know the theory, but because they've never actually seen it work, they cannot relate. And I can tell you for a fact, this is something that we see every day in the factory. So I take an electrical guy that knows all the, how to do all the connections and, up here, and then we show him a panel, and he's lost. And this should not be the case. We should be able to intertwine, between experiential learning and academia. What experiential learning will do, can we change to the next slide, please? This critical gap, okay, I think I've spoken through this. So this is the more important thing for me. We need learned doers, not just degree holders. Because a lot of these guys carry their degrees, their certificates, sometimes even first class, but they don't know anything. And you can't blame them. At the end of the day, as much as you want to believe they should know more, they should do better, they should know better, you cannot blame them, because this is all they've, give them a test and they can write it down. But the real world sometimes is not in the textbooks. That's what I found out. The real world situations is you have to be able to think on your feet on site. Something will always go wrong. And I'm sure we all know that as engineers. You have all the plan, you've done all the plan, you've done everything, but when you get to site, something has not been calculated into the big scheme of things. And everything is now back to square one. If you are not able to think outside the box, this is where the problem lies. So what experiential learning would give, most importantly, is that critical thinking ability. They can see what is happening and prefer solutions. Let's try this on the spot. And you can immediately see what is going on. It allows you to be innovative. I'll give you an example. For myself in the factory, we are 100% Nigerian. Between all of my core managers, maybe over 100 years of experience. So they come to me and say, machine has broken down. And so job has stopped. And I'm saying, so what do we do? And we can't be waiting to go and be buying a machine right now. We have to solve this problem. And then, madam, there's something we need to buy. There's one diode somewhere, there's one part somewhere. I'm like, I don't have it. What do we do? All of you combined, myself inclusive, we cannot say we don't know what to do. Our factory is very hands-on. So we do all our mechanical works, our electrical works, our carpentry works, so we do the drums, we do everything. So we can have all of that and not be able to think of a solution, at least for now, to get the machines working, while we go and buy whatever parts we need to buy in the future. And I can tell you that today, they don't even bother to come and tell me there's a problem. Madam, there was this issue, but we have solved it. That is what experiential knowledge does. So the most important thing is the job doesn't stop. We continue, we move on. But if you don't think and say, let's do this, maybe if we, weld this part or do this part or engage this gel there and there, if you don't consistently are in that environment where you are being taught, your textbook sometimes goes out the window because, like I said, some of these things they do not teach you. And then it causes technological adaptability. Can we change the slides? Technological adaptability. You're exposed. If you're in a company where they are very into technology is evolving now. There's robotics, AI, there's all sorts. You cannot but evolve with it. And then, of course, the mindset is one of a problem solver. One that is solution driven, not one that is constantly looking to go and buy a new thing. And to be honest, it is Otibaje Karami. That's I'm sorry, I'm just assuming everybody understands Yoruba. I do that a lot. So, that's the mentality. It's spoiled, it's bad, it's not working anymore. Madam, let's go and buy a new thing. And I'm like, manufacturing is not very high on profit margin like that. Where will I see money to go and be buying new thing every time something goes wrong? We have to be able to deal with the solution in-house. So imagine we have students, learners, fresh graduates. They cannot but learn. They cannot but have it as part of their DNA, as it were. Now, what I have found is when these graduates are graduated already, they have plans. They have plans in their head how they're going to make all the big money and how, they have all these big ideas they want to do, which is not a bad idea. But what you find is that they don't want to learn. They want to feel like I've learned, I've gotten a first class, I have a 2-1, that is it. Now I want to start making money. And I'm sure you will agree with me that this, our profession, you are learning every day. It's never stopped. I am learning every day. Something new comes and I'm like, okay, that works. You are constantly evolving. So we need to have, and this is where the first role I'm going to give to NSC and Coren, we must start to advocate for curriculum reform so that it actually forms part of emphasizing industry immersion for the students. They know that they have to do it. So by the time they are graduated, for sure, they have some semblance of industrial knowledge. We could champion experiential learning competitions, mentorship platforms, project-based certification pathways as well. For Coren, maybe introduce continued professional development courses that is tied to them going to the industry. Something that is not, you just do a course online. You have to be certified from whatever industry that you go to. And you must enforce some kind of standard that will mandate industrial attachment and practical competency for graduate responsibilities. Now, I know there is that. I know there is the CWES program that most engineering students do in their Path 4. But what I also know is that unfortunately, this might not be their fault as well. Unfortunately, because several things. There is probably not enough industries that is willing to take them, or their course, their core competence, they don't have a willing company in that course. So there is a mismatch. So sometimes you find an electrical person working in a firm that isn't going to particularly help that electrical course going on. So these are issues, and this is what I also have as a solution. A lot of our students, again, in the old imagery in their heads, would rather work for the big guys, for the multinationals, for the big named companies, for the Siemens, for the oil and gas, the big names, when they could probably get better trained as an apprentice. But they don't want to do that. So how do we effect that? Because they could really get more training to go and attach themselves to a local electrician that works all the time. And these people work all the time. They have work. They might not know the rationale behind why we're using 1.5 square mm or 4x50 or 4x, but they know it works. And they would connect it and it works. They might not know all the full theoretical detail about circuits and whatnot, but they know it works. That is the part that will add on to the students. So the students know the theory. So it would be like a light bulb moment for them, because now they can connect the theory to what they're saying. So maybe in between NSC and Current, they can enforce, don't go and look for PLC. Don't go and look for limited company. A sole proprietorship shipman that is just by himself in his shop will do probably better for you, because in these big companies there's so much red tape, so much bureaucracy, that you probably never even get to touch anything while you're there. So what would have been the point of doing a placement somewhere where you're not even adding value? And I say to everyone that I come across, it's not the money, it's the value. If you make yourself valuable, people will pay anything. So this, okay, so this is what I just said here now. If we can go to the next slide. So the paradigm shift that we need is, obviously, this experiential learning will thrive on industry and academia partnership. There is no two ways about it. This is the only way it can thrive. And how that can happen is when industries begin to see themselves as a co-developer. We are not just consuming talent now. We're helping to develop the talent. We have to be active. And I'm speaking for myself as an industry person. We can't just keep complaining. We have to be part of the solution. So part of the solution is maybe co-developing a curricula that would reflect a particular industry need, maybe funding research into, like in schools and universities to focus on some industry problems. I started this partnership. I was at UI and IFE, and I said to them that in my factory, I have a corner where, so we use a lot of drives, AC, DC drives in a lot of the machines. And what happens is there might be 4 or 5 on a machine. If one shuts down, it shuts down the entire machine. So either we solve the problem or we replace the drive. And I found that I have had to replace drives. I have not been able to find somebody that can repair the drives. It's a problem for me. And I refuse to throw them away. So I have a corner in the factory that one day I will find somebody in Nigeria, preferably, that would solve. It's not rocket science. I have had people that I buy from tell me that I can ship it to China and then bring it back. I'm like, the money that I'm going to use to ship to China and come back, it doesn't make sense. And I fail to understand why there is not one electronic person, because it's an electronic problem, that can solve that problem. So when I got to IFE, I'm like, in this entire department, I have work already for your students to solve. And if they can solve it, it pays me, it pays you. So it's things like this, when we can impute industry issues in the curriculum of this, these students will go outside there knowing that they can repair a drive, a Siemens drive. So we need to be, even making some industry expert person an adjunct lecturer for a few weeks, just to be able to teach from a place of practicality. Very important. There's been a few collaborations. I know Siemens has done quite a few with universities to train students and graduates in their factory, and this is what we at MICOM as well, can we change the slides please? We at MICOM as well have started, because like I said at the beginning of this year, I was just like, no, we can't enter another year, and it's a critical year for us at MICOM. And what I have said to the schools that I've been to is, okay, so what we're doing at MICOM this year is we're literally changing all the machines. We are uprooting, literally removing and reinstalling. And that in itself, I have never witnessed it before. In factory learning, I have never seen, maybe one or two that we've added, but an outright overhaul is a big deal. And I'm saying this is a learning opportunity for students, for lecturers, to see, because even from civil works, the civil, the foundations, from all of that, and it's so technical. The foundations, I'm looking at it, I'm like, are we building a house? It's so particular. To the removal, to the reinstalling, and then you have to pipe the electricals and pack the water, put the air, put the lubricants, everything is piped, everything is connected. It's such a beautiful learning moment. And I said to myself that we cannot be doing that, because I like it or not, I'm going to hire people to do it. I'm going to attach people to myself with the installers that are coming from wherever to do the work. Why can't it be the students? Why can't it even be some lecturers? Because this kind of opportunity does not come a lot of the time. And of course they jumped at it. So this is the kind of collaboration that the industry also needs to be particular about. Dangote does it as well with some technical institutions that I'm aware of. So you can imagine if 100 is plenty, I mentioned 100, 50 of such partnership, active partnership exists. Our children, well, the graduates, they cannot come out not even wanting to pursue engineering. Because that's something else that happens. They do the engineering because it's what mommy wanted me to do. And then they leave and then they go on and do whatever. And then they are not active in the profession. But there's no way you can be that evolved during your schooling that you will not want to continue. I am not an engineer by profession. I say it everywhere. I'm an engineer by birth because I was born inside it. But I am probably more engineer than most engineers that I know, because it's rubbed off on me, and the more I'm in it, the more I'm loving it. So we need to do more. We need to do more. So NSC, you need to, if you have to establish an industry academia engagement council of sorts to drive this conversation, to drive this collaboration, this is what we need. And then of course, CORE needs to make this an accreditation prerequisite to graduate. That would be the only way to add this as part of the DNA of the engineering profession. So there are ways that this can happen. Again, like we said, mandatory real-world projects from university, maybe even from second year, not fourth year as we currently have it. Institutionalize MOUs with industries, industry partnerships, have a formal memorandum of understanding so that even the industry cannot say, I'm not doing again. We are in this together. 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, however long the industry is happy to go with, so that they cannot decide I'm not doing again. And then build hubs on campuses where they can actually incubate ideas to reality. That might cost money, that might not be immediate, but it is something to plan towards. So maybe there's a kind of fund that the NSC can launch to seed these ops and, recognize outstanding ones or something. There are things. I'm sure there will be people that will fund these things. To be honest, I am sure. And then Current can maybe develop an industry internship directory that will link the students to the company that works for them. Because that's another disconnect. They actually want to work in an industry, but they cannot find. Or there's no industry that is willing to take them on. Or the one they found is not in the course that they're doing. So there needs to be that connection even better. And we must obviously begin to move from talk, because we talk about this a lot. We talk, action. From policies, from developing policies to practice. It is high time. And I would leave you with something that, a couple of things that I heard. I was at an event somewhere and 2 things were said. The first one was that where Nigeria goes, Africa goes. And I thought to myself, that actually makes sense. Because a lot of service industries, to be honest, if they are not in Nigeria yet, in this Africa, they have not arrived. Why can we not say the same for our industry? So there's a big problem there, and I had a problem with that. The other thing that I know is engineering is life. And that has become my mantra since the day I heard it, because that is so true. Because even from agriculture, the food we eat, the water we drink, there is a huge part of engineering that goes into that. So maybe by the time we start to see it that way, we start to take it a bit more seriously. And then of course, this is the one I put here. The future is not something we enter into. It is something that we create. So the future that I want to enter, I have to be creating it today. And to be honest, in another 10 years, it is these graduates that will be the decision makers wherever they're going. And if we don't empower them and give them the abilities that they need, then what are the chances, what would they be doing? Based on what will they be doing in 10 years? So our future, industrial future in Nigeria, is not going to fall from the sky. It has to be engineered. We have to be strategic, we have to be persistent, and we have to have a way to innovate. So I am calling on a collective collaboration. It is time that we start to move from talking to moving to practice. And like I said, NSC and Current cannot remove themselves from this. And together, we can unleash, I'm always party to that, a new era in the Nigerian engineering leadership that will power factories, energize innovation hubs, electrify infrastructure, and transform industries together. And when I say together, industry, academia, NSC, Current, we can realize the Nigeria of our dreams. The Nigeria that is globally competitive, economically resilient, and industrially mighty. We have the capacity, we have the people, we have the knowledge. It's time to bring it all together for the greater good. I'm proudly Nigerian, so I am anything that will foster the growth of something that I know that we can do, I am party to. So thank you again. You did that session with me. Thank you very much. It was indeed a pleasure.